It was Dr. Seuss week and the teachers wanted to watch Cat in the Hat with Mike Myers. Okay, just a small story and nothing too big. But I wanted to share this after watching the Cat in the Hat movie with my husband. I used to work for a Head Start program and it was Dr. Seuss week. Surprisingly, the full day class teachers never seen the movie and wanted to put it on. I told them they shouldn't because there's a lot of adult jokes in it. They told me it was a kid's movie and that I didn't know what I was talking about. I made sure to put on the subtitles so the teachers and parents could read it if they didn't hear it. Let's just say all the parents that took their kids went straight into the director's office. We ended up getting write-ups. I tried to fight for mine, but the director said I could have alerted them on the matter. Fair enough. Thank you for reading this. It is one of my favorite stories to tell. Thank you for schooling them. You'd seen the movie and they're like, no, but it's a kid's movie. That doesn't mean there's not adult jokes. They'll throw those in for the parents so they're forced to watch the kids movie. Fleet inspections. I used to be the foreman at a food distributor company with a fleet of about 100 units in total. Every quarter there was a document inspection that essentially made sure that all the legal paperwork was together in case DOT ever pulled a unit over. Every technician needed to be clocked on to repair. Sorry, that was just a weird sentence. Every technician needed to be clocked on to a repair order for each job they would work on. This made it easy to track time to measure efficiency, but more importantly, how much time was spent on each unit in a certain time frame. If any unit had high labor times, it would go to considerations to retire it. Makes perfect sense. And for our quarterly inspections, I would make a generic document inspection repair order to knock out all of them in one shot, instead of going back and forth to clock one off and clock into another. Easy, right? The company made a position called Director of Transportation, and the guy they hired had no concept of time management. We butted heads quite a bit because he liked to micromanage things that really didn't matter. I'd give examples, but it would drag this on. Anyway, he was adamant about making a repair order for everything. Even sent an email demanding this is to be done. And after explaining the complexity of his request, he waved me off like I was a peasant. So I made a repair order for one unit, walked to the truck, checked all the paperwork, walked back, noted the work done, and closed it. I did this for every single unit on the yard. He had over 100 repair orders and over 9 hours of labor to do something that usually takes about 2 hours if you do it all at once. I was called into his office the next day. He then wanted to write me up for insubordination. I asked to have a member from HR present. When they showed up, I showed her the email chain of what he wanted. There was nothing he could do. He literally asked me to do it that way. I left the company and the techs followed to work for me at another company. We all made sure to let them know it was because of him. Not a month later, a driver reached out and told me they fired him. I want it done this way! Bro, when people are so stubborn that they're not willing to change their perspective for what might work better, it's such a, it's delicious. Sucking the flavor off my fingers with how tasty that is, man. You know what I mean? It's finger licking good when people do that. Who starts the dishwasher, empties it? Okay. Not sure how this will be received, but here goes. I'm a master's student in a well-known university in my country. My job until my thesis is approved is to assist students with their analyses during hands-on laboratory courses and whoever needs assistance in my advisor's crew. Whether they are doctorate or masters, do analyses, I hate that word, man. They need for whatever they do. I like what I do, and I'm damn good at it. We had a chain of inconsequential feuds with a fellow master's student, let's call her F, during my first year here after I devastatingly lost a lot of the elderly side of my family back to back. I'm so sorry for your loss, man. I know how it is to work with someone constantly feeling blue, but the way I was treated crossed the line. Constantly being told I was a downer and becoming a thankless errand boy made me hate F. She made her job to make my life hell every chance she had, twisting and turning the unwritten etiquette rules of the laboratory willy-nilly to inconvenience me, especially concerning cleaning the glass equipment, making me take out the trash even though we had janitors, making me wash the dishes by hand and throwing whatever she was using in front of me without saying anything. The straw that broke the camel's back was last New Year's joint gift to our advisor. The gist of it is that it quickly became a screaming match between us. I had to run to the pharmacy to get my dad's heart medicine and couldn't join the crew for getting the present. I had to run to a store and get my own. After that, I was singled out. Because I'm a male and she is female, raising my voice back at her was a cardinal sin. I had to do everything on my own. I made sure everything was going swimmingly and surprisingly made it work, publishing 3 articles in a year. But the bullying continued. The last rule that she added was emptying the dishwasher after starting it. I had nothing to do with the dishwasher at the time, but since I was the odd one out, the blame fell on me. Apparently, she was about to do her analysis for her thesis, and nothing was in place. She was very vocal in our WhatsApp group containing our advisor. I was chewed out by the doctorate students. F it, let's dance. Come spring cleaning in our lab before the laboratory courses started. The dishwasher was loaded with all kinds of glass equipment. One of the doctorate students told F to start the dishwasher. This was 2 weeks ago. I haven't touched anything because I didn't start it, right? This morning I was doing some analyses in the lab and noticed the dishwasher was still full. This is my time to shine. I wrote verbatim, down to every emoji she used, to call her out on the very same thing I was chewed out for. I replied to her older messages about, people are constantly working in the lab, so we should be diligent, and hit her with a, diss you? It was her day off, so now she has to take the bus for 2 hours from her home just to get chewed out by the advisor. I got a nod of approval and an apology from our advisor on behalf of the crew. I'm feeling better about the whole ordeal now. I think the crew should still apologize to you directly, but I'm happy you feel a little vindicated, man. That's some justice for you. Burn my textbook for me? Why are we burning them? Wait, what? Back in the last century, a friend, high school senior at the time, went to Florida. Oh, that makes sense. This is a Florida-related story. For spring break with a group of his friends. During the weeks before break, the group decided they would burn their school-owned physics textbooks on the beach. Kindling, huh? One of my friend's buddies wasn't able to go to Florida, but wanted to participate in the textbook burn. So he asked my friend to take his textbook to Florida and burn it for him. My friend readily agreed. On the evening of the burn, my friend threw his buddy's textbook while his own textbook sat safely in his school locker. No one in Florida realized it wasn't his own book, and at the same time, he complied with his buddy's request. And he didn't have to pay for a lost textbook at the end of the year like his buddies did either. Got to have fun, and it wasn't even something that fell back on you, man. Oh, dude, big brain, 200 IQ. Came out of Florida too? We don't get a lot of those kinds of wins. Can't get an extension, you say? Okay then. When I was in university, one class had a weekly assignment which was a 1-page essay which was mandatory to pass, but only worth 1% of the final mark per weekly essay. So they made up 10% of the total mark in a 10-week semester. Each week, I'd put in a lot of effort, and no matter what, would get a 9 of 10, which equates to 0.9% of the 1% mark. This went on for about 6 weeks. I thought it was a little odd that it was always the same mark, and was frustrated I didn't get full marks because they were basic questions and I answered perfectly, but that's beside the point of the story. Anyway, my record thus far was perfect. I was a model student, never late, perfect work, etc. Now in week 7, I had a family emergency. I couldn't complete my essay and asked for 1 day's extension. 1 day. Given my record, I didn't envision an issue with this, but surprisingly, my teacher denied my request and told me if I didn't submit it, I'd fail the course. Alrighty then. So I dealt with said emergency. It was late. I opened my Word document, wrote half a sentence, then typed some gibberish that looked like an error code and copied and pasted it down the page. Then I uploaded the essay online. You said I needed to submit my essay? Here it is. What I fully expected to happen was that the teacher would contact me and say that there was an error uploading my document and to please resubmit it. This would have been the next day since it was late at night when I submitted it, so I would have time to do it properly, which is what would have happened had she granted me the extension in the first place. What happened instead was I heard nothing. Then I got my grade, 9 out of 10. What I figured out is my teacher must not have even been reading our essays, and she was probably marking us based on our previous assignment grades and just copying and pasting the grade each week. The worst thing is I couldn't report her because that would have meant confessing to submitting an incomplete essay. Needless to say, for the last 3 weeks I put minimal effort into my essays and lo and behold, continued my streak of 9 out of 10. I definitely think there's some teachers who shouldn't be in the profession because of minimal effort, but that's another level. That's I guess just take what you can get. If you're gonna get a 9 out of 10 each time and they're not even reading it, use the system to your advantage, you know what I mean? You want a trophy for that? Yes. This happened to one of my cousins. Let's call him Tim for the sake of the story. Can we get a hi Tim in the comments? I bet Tim uses code Damien at MKshop.com. He seems like the kind of guy. Which he did to his mom. Tim's mom is a bit of an attention seeker and always wanting to get validation over every single thing she does, and always moaning and complaining that she doesn't get appreciated enough in the house for all the things she does for the family, even though some of the things she does is just basic common sense to do. One day, Tim, after another round of annoying complaints and moans from his mother, sarcastically asked her, "Wow, amazing, you did a great job. You want a trophy for that?" His mom, angered by his sarcasm, blurted out, "Yes, maybe I deserve a trophy for everything I've done in this bloody house." Cue malicious compliance. Tim went to one of those warehouse stores that sells a whole bunch of knickknacks and found a huge box of tiny toy plastic trophies that was sold at a bargain price. He bought the whole box and monitored his mom. It started off with things like when she did the laundry or cooked dinner or cleaned the house. He would give her a trophy and made a huge fanfare about it, with celebratory music in the background and him giving her the cringiest and most exaggerated congrats to her on a job well done. Before we continue, I do think it's fair to want to feel appreciated, but she's taken it to an extreme with how with the whole like complaining over and over and over again. A lot of the things you're just doing because it's expected. Appreciation's nice, but not for things that are expected of you when you're, a parent in a house, Then it moved on to more things like if she sneezed or coughed or went to the toilet or took a bath, or even when she ate or drank anything. Every single mundane thing she did, he would give her a trophy with all the works. And even got to the point where he would spring into a room to give her a trophy just for waking up in the morning to successfully turn off the alarm. Tim carried on for almost 2 weeks until her dresser was completely filled with his tiny trophies. And his mom's face looked like she was about to explode and rain the fear of God on him seeing those annoying trophies. Luckily for him, Tim's mom was reminded by Tim's dad that she was the one who asked for it. He was there when Tim and his mom had that first argument that started all this, and that he was only doing what she'd asked. She begrudgingly barked at Tim to get rid of all the trophies, though I can't remember what Tim said he did with them. Still, didn't really stop her from being an attention seeker, but she never dared to call Tim on his bluff again. He may be the child, but he just owned the house with that move. Malicious compliance done to me. Oh, that's rare. We don't see many of these stories where thee were the malicious compliance-y. This is the story of malicious compliance done to me back at one of my college jobs. I used to work for a buffet chain restaurant as a cook. The owner/manager was a decent enough human, except that he trusted some truly awful assistant managers to run the restaurant. The owner was thrilled that I would commit to working the same 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. I was, in turn, equally thrilled that I could find a schedule that was going to work around my classes that would pay me enough that I could afford all my bills. For about 2 months, I worked the same shift 5 days every week, and then all of a sudden, one day, I was down to only 2 days, 8 hours each day. I go to talk to the assistant manager in charge of scheduling about this and explained I need more days, or I wouldn't be able to afford to live. They apologized and said not to worry, and they'll happily give me more days on the next schedule. Next schedule comes out, and I'm on schedule for 4 days, 2 hours each day. When I confronted the assistant manager about it, he reminded me that I'd asked for more days and he'd given me exactly what I wanted. He wasn't wrong. Okay, well now ask for more hours. It's simple, just change the request. You want me to leave you alone? Okay, enjoy handling the bus by yourself. Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and other fellow readers. I've listened to other MC stories, but never thought I'd ever have one to tell until today. I work at Wendy's. Normally in back drive-thru. We had a bus come through, and if you've ever worked fast food, you know bus equals all hands on deck. I walked up to my manager, who tends to be a bitch, and asked what she wanted me to do. She told me, OP, just leave her alone. So I did. I walked back to my corner and watched as the chaos ensued. Every now and then I'd hear her ask for things to be dropped, but I didn't move from my corner because I was told to leave her alone. If I had been asked, I would have done things for her, but she never asked, and I was told to leave her alone, so I just stayed put and watched her struggle. That's a solid story, actually. Manager wants to be left alone? Yeah, no, I can do that. Absolutely. Do your thing. See you handle it. See if that extra 50 cents an hour makes a difference in your work ethic. Let's go. Dart house rules gone bad. Uh-oh. Darts and gone bad is never a combination you want to see. We used to play darts every Friday at work, just as a fun thing to do before the weekend. We had our own simplified house rules and tried to keep it fun and casual. 3 darts, 5 rounds, highest score wins. Most of the time, people picked up their own darts after throwing, but sometimes they'd forget. I suggest having a small penalty for doing so to encourage speedy play. Throw 3 darts, pick them up, next player. Mary insisted that it would be much better if the next person picked up the darts since they were going to use them next. Me and Tom disagreed, but she wouldn't budge. It was Tom's turn, and after Tom, it would be Mary's turn. Tom threw his darts as high up on the wall as he could, putting them just under the ceiling. Mary had to get a chair to climb up and pull the darts out. Now the rule is you pick up your own darts after throwing. Presence in German class is mandatory? I'm from Luxembourg, a tiny country between Germany, France, and Belgium. Sure, we could show it on the map somewhere, just like highlight it. Thank you. Shout out my Luxembourgers. In order to get to the point of the story, I need to lay some groundwork. Our educational system is a bit unique, since a strong emphasis is put on learning foreign languages, probably because you're bordered by 3 countries. Thus, kids are alphabetized in German at the age of 6, even though for natives, the mother tongue is Luxembourgish. At age 7, French is added and English at the age of 13, except if they opt in for Latin, then they start English courses a year later. Most people are taught all 3 languages until they graduate from high school. Another special thing about Luxembourg is that it only has one single university, and only for a couple of decades now. Thus, there is a certain tradition of Luxembourgian youth studying abroad. A couple of friends of mine enrolled in Strasbourg University, one studying biology, the other law. The university has a policy that during the first year, you have to pick at least one course that is not your main subject. And most students from Luxembourg pick German. Having had 13 years of classes in German, most are about as fluent as a native speaker, so it makes for an easy pass. For years, they were allowed to enroll and only show up for the exam, which they always aced, so they complied with the policy, but didn't lose any time, but could use it to get used to their new hometown and concentrate on their main subjects. But not my friends. The new professor for German class announced that whomever was absent more than twice during a semester would fail. The friends were quite annoyed, but did comply. But as it turned out, the professor wasn't very fit in German, so she made frequent mistakes, especially concerning the right choice of prepositions and before all grammatical cases, which are quite tricky in German for non-native speakers, and some native speakers too. So the 2 friends had fun raising their hand whenever they noticed a mistake and corrected the professor, who after a couple of sessions grew very disgruntled. After a month of being corrected over and over again by 2 of her students, the mandatory presence was dropped again for students from Luxembourg. That's a classic Luxembourg W. We got another dishwashing malicious compliance. This is my first malicious compliance, so bear with me as I'm typing on mobile. I'll try to make it short and sweet. This all started in the spring of 2022. I was a dishwasher, now a prep cook, and I was covering a prep cook's position in the AM and washing dishes in the PM, and doing all my necessary duties for the day, such as taking out the trash, getting the mail, etc. I'd leave by 4 p.m., but I noticed very quickly that after I did my duties and hit the dishes, I'd be leaving by 4:30 p.m. I gently complained that the workload was causing me to leave later than my desired clock out time to my manager. I was polite in her to offer to my boss the idea of one of the cooks or somebody to go into the dish area for a few minutes to run some dishes through, but the boss declined the idea, saying, "We don't have enough staff to do that. Just get the dishes done." Cue malicious compliance time. I did just as I was asked, and only what was asked. I rarely did my other duties and focused mainly on dishes. Need me to go to the mailroom? Sorry, I'm doing dishes. Need me to collect trays? Sorry, the dish area called and it needs me back. My Friday deep clean list was neglected too. I'd get a few things done here and there when I had the time, but mostly stuck to the dishes. This went on for 2 months, and at the 1-month mark, my boss called me into my office to ask what was happening and why I was getting out later than normal. I explained my situation. I forgot what I actually said. And about a week later, I got told coworkers will help me out with dishes as well as my daily duties. The amount of overtime, and not to mention a mild case of burnout, was crazy. I got promoted over the summer and now work as a prep cook only. We have a new dish person, and if they're struggling, I don't hesitate to help them when I deem it appropriate. You changed the culture there, man. You did it. Good job. That's what we love to see.